Right now in the studios, we have two veterans that we are going to actually have a discussion with right here. One is Biodun Awwal, and he's the National Coordinator, REMENAF. And REMENAF is the Retired Members of Nigeria Armed Forces. And of course, he's the National Spokesperson, Coalition of Concerned Veterans. And he's right here in the studio with us to discuss this very important day. And also, we have Dr. Awwal Abdullahi Aliu, and he's our Secretary General, Veteran Federation of Nigeria, and of course the General Secretary North, Coalition of Concerned Veterans. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us here.
All right. So I think I'll start from my immediate right, Dr. Awwal Abdullahi. January 15th, how significant is this day?
Well, thank you very much, and then thank you once again for having us here, and good morning, Nigerians. January 15th is the day Nigeria set aside to remember the fallen heroes. Those fallen heroes are those that fought for Nigeria and for the protection of lives and property, for the continuity, for peaceful coexistence of Nigeria, and they paid the supreme sacrifice. These heroes died at various engagements, some during the Nigerian Civil War, which is the most significant as far as Nigeria is concerned. Others die in collaboration with other countries where Nigeria has contributed within Africa and even, if you like, the world. Even during the First World War, Nigeria was part of it. The Second World War, Nigeria was part of it. All other international engagements that the United Nations were involved, and Nigeria was also part of it. Not just part of it, but prominently part of it. And then coming back home, apart from the Civil War, you are also aware that we had so many issues, from the Bakassi Peninsula issue to the Boko Haram insurgency to the banditry, which are most recently declared as a terrorist, as well as the other challenges of successionist challenges presently going on, from the Odua Republic, so to say, to the IPOB, Eastern Security Network, which killings are continually, and the same members of the Nigerian Armed Forces are the ones engaged in trying to make sure that Nigeria continue to remain as one country with one destiny under God. So it is the responsibility of the armed forces to do that, protection of territorial integrity of Nigeria against external aggression. So this day is so significant because we are remembering, or the nation is remembering, those heroes that fought gallantly in the national interest, for the unity, like I said, for togetherness, for love, for peace, and then for continuity of Nigeria as one nation. You cannot have it better than you are doing it. Though it could be better, but you cannot just forget these fallen heroes for their contribution to the nation, and also the significance also of what they did. It's what is making us sit here today and we are discussing it. Otherwise, without the performance and the contribution of those heroes whom have fought and then paid their supreme sacrifice, we wouldn't have been here. But that is not to say that we, the living ones, are also supposed to be celebrated. We are as well being celebrated. If you go, the President and Commander-in-Chief would personally lay the wreath of honor and respect to the fallen heroes, and also goes to all the other senior government officials, as well as the head of the security agencies, that is the service chief. So it is an issue more like trying to say thank you for what you have done, thank you for being part of Nigeria's peace, unity and development, and thank you for keeping the country together. Not only also that we celebrate the dead ones among us, like I said, the living ones also needed to be celebrated and also needed to be recognized. Today is supposed to be a day of pronouncement for the welfare and the well-being of those of us that are still surviving. If you go out there, you find a lot of us that have fought and then or served and left this job, or have fought in various engagements. Most of us are bedridden. Some of us are, cannot are on wheelchairs. Some have various kind of sicknesses, and then so the welfare and well-being of the living ones also is very paramount and very important for the government to look into.
Okay, all right. Now, on that same note, while we talk about honoring those who have fallen, we are also remembering those who are with us, and are still serving. And on that, I will throw the question to Biodun. How well are we doing in honoring those who are still with us? If you take a look at, yes, we have the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is more like a tradition now. It's more like a ritual. The president comes, lay the wreath, and then at the end of the day, everyone disappears and all of that. But the widows are still there, and all of that. How well are we doing in making sure that the welfare of those that have fallen is being, taken seriously?
Thank you. Thank you once again for having us here. Let me quickly say here that if you've been following events, you would have seen us last week protesting, both at the Ministry of Finance as well as the Ministry of Defense. And of course, there was a reason why we had to come out. It has to do with our welfare and general well-being. Like my colleague had already spoken, a lot needs to be done for those of us that are very lucky to have survived all the challenges. And well, there's room for improvement, like you would observe. We have quite a number of our members who are, like you said, bedridden, in various state of health challenges. And we did all we could to seek the audience with those in authority. But then we didn't get audience, and we had to come out, on protest last week. And part of the issues that are on the front burner, of course, we had the issue of, or rather, we have the issue of 24 months of arrears that has not been paid to us. I mean, these are people who had staked their lives, to ensure that this country is what it is today. And like we keep saying, if there's any segment of the society that must not be taken for granted, it is those of us who are still surviving today, because we've been able to surmount all the challenges and ensure that even those that are serving now, are encouraged to put in their best. But of course, with the way we're being treated, it is very obvious that those that are still serving will not be encouraged to put in their best. I mean, looking back at those of us who had served and then at the end of the day were being abandoned, it will dampen their enthusiasm to put in the best. They are, as we speak, some of them are in the front line in the Northeast. He just talked about the insurgency and whatever you have it in the Southeast, all over the country. These people are engaged in ensuring that there is peace in this nation. And of course, if there's no peace, we won't be here discussing this issue. No business will function under, when a nation is in a very terrible security, has a very terrible security challenges. No nation will survive. And so we are saying that our welfare should be topmost. With all due respect to members of the parliament, they make the law, but you can imagine how much they take home. But look at the retirees, those of us that have retired. We are the ones that have made this country what it is, right? And including those that are serving. So if there is any, like I said earlier, if there are people in the society that needs to be taken good care of, it is those of us. That's how this country.
Okay, now, do you think that probably government is overwhelmed with the current security situation that we have, in the country that they are dealing with, and which is why maybe they are not paying enough attention to, people like you who have served? We've also, if I may marry this question with the initial one, we've also heard about, engaging members of the reserve, just like you, maybe recalling them back to the service, looking at the, nature of security situation that we are dealing with at the moment. Is that even an option to consider, looking at the way the welfare thing and everything is going on?
Yeah, well, this nation is ours. We got, enlisted because we love this nation. And we are ready and willing at any time to ensure that this nation survives. I mean, just look at it this way. Nigeria is the biggest or the largest concentration of black people in the whole world. Now, if there's a war, if war breaks out in Nigeria, where do we go to? Where do we go to? So we are willing, but what we are saying is, before we are re-engaged, give us what is due to us. We don't need to start protesting. It is a shame that we have to go on the street to protest when we have the president as one of us. We have the Minister of Defense as one of us. We have the National Security Advisor as one of us. Some members of the Nigerian Parliament, they are our comrades in arms. So I think something is missing somewhere. And I think those in authority must begin to take full responsibility. We don't have to beg for what is legitimately ours. It is constitutional that these things be given to us. We do not need to ask for them. So, I mean, it's so unfortunate, and government must look at this issue. When we had a meeting with the Minister of Defense on Friday, he gave us assurances. The same with the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. They have given us assurances. But we are waiting to see, see it fulfilled, because we do not want to go back on the street.
No. Okay. So, Dr. Awwal, he made mention of the motivating factor that brought most of you to service. The love of the country, patriotism, the need to serve your country. And I remember when we were younger, I mean, if you could take a poll of like 10 kids when we were growing up and you ask them what they wanted to be, like 8 or 9 will say they wanted to be soldiers.
Absolutely.
You understand, because of the prestige that came with being a military person. So with the current state of things now, as we're complaining that most of the veterans are not being taken care of, and even the ones in service could be demotivated, what about those that are actually aspiring to become military people? In the long run, what kind of effect do you think the treatment being meted to veterans now will have on those aspiring to become military men?
Thank you very much. That is a wonderful question, I would say, and then I think it really touches on where it's really itchy. Right now, all those that want to become members of the Nigerian Armed Forces are doing that not because of the interest of the nation or patriotism, but they are doing that because there's just no work to do. So it's just like the only option that we're having, and that is the only sector that is employing, open employment, and then people are going in. Otherwise, I will tell you that whoever comes into the armed forces as at today a Nigerian is not doing that because he's really patriotic to the Nigerian nation or because he wants to keep the Nigerian nation together, but because there's no job, and that's why they are doing that. And why is this like that? Because they are also seeing what is going on. They also saw as we are complaining and then agitating, like he rightly put. This agitation started with a protest in Lagos, and then after Lagos, we decentralized the zone. We zoned the protest just to call the attention of government to tell them that our plight is at stake and our welfare is not properly looked into. Now, we had a protest in Lagos. From Lagos, we had another one in Port Harcourt. We had a protest in Kano. Then we had a protest in Oyo, another one in Benue, then in Kaduna. Then the last one that culminated all was the one in FCT here. Now, what, like you asked, the present situation, there's what the Veterans Federation, for example, is an initiative of the Defense Headquarters. And then it was to bring all together all veteran associations. We have about 16 Veterans Associations recognized by the Ministry of Defense and then the Defense Headquarters. Out of this Veterans Association, bringing them together to speak with a voice under what is called the Veterans Federation of Nigeria. The world over, it is only in Nigeria you have what is called the Nigerian Legion. It is obsolete and outdated if you compare it to what is happening across the world. But then veterans across the world, in the US, in the UK, in France, and even common African country here, if you come to countries like Egypt, you find out that veterans are recognized as first citizens of the nation. But in Nigeria, we are the last to be recognized as citizens in the nation. But if you go to other countries, veterans are first. Now, under the Veterans Federation arrangement, you are supposed to be first when you talk of welfare. That will motivate and encourage those that are in service now and those that are willing to be part of the service, the armed forces. First, you needed to provide proper welfare and for the well-being of the veterans. You needed, like I said, proper medical care, 1. 2, you needed a transportation system. 3, you needed a proper educational system for the family of the veterans. 3rd, you needed housing, proper housing for these members. And also coming to the widows, those that have lost their husbands or their breadwinners. Both the widows and the children of the fallen heroes are not properly taken care of. You needed to provide them, the widows, with skills acquisitions that they would use in taking care of themselves. But in the Nigerian situation, that is not the case. Like I said, instead of being first-class citizen, like in other countries across the globe, as a retired military personnel, the retired military personnel in Nigeria is seen as the last citizen. When you move, there is an adage in the Hausa, they will say, Allura Soja Tamuza. That is, you are being seen as a madman because of the treatment, the way you behave. You are not happy with the system. You are not happy after serving. You've lost some part of your body, or you lost people who lost their breadwinners, like I said, are not properly taken care of. So you behave as if you don't know what you are doing, or behave like a madman, and that is what is being, the Nigerian retired military personnel is being recognized or addressed as today. So that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, like you asked, if there's a motivation for those that want to be members of the Nigerian Armed Forces, tell me where the motivation is. We are seated here. We are complaining. Ours is possibly even better, because possibly the way we are seated, you might be looking at us, but why are they complaining? Look at the way they are sitting. Go outside there and see those that are not looking the way we are looking right now. When you see, you shed tears. You feel sorry for them. You feel sorry for a country like my colleague rightly said, the President and Commander-in-Chief is a retired military personnel. The Minister of Defense is a retired military personnel. The National Security Advisor is a retired military personnel. And these people knows the plight of the retirees, because before becoming what they are today, they were part of the system. After leaving office, they are still coming back to be part of the same system of the force of retirees. And then they are privileged to be where they are today. Possibly why they are occupying the office they are occupying is because they have had the privilege of serving this nation in that capacity as members of the Nigerian Armed Forces. And that was what gave them one step ahead of others, that they are able to recognize to say, okay, if you give certain responsibility of leadership to these people, they will take care of the nation, and most especially in terms of security, and also knowing that the Armed Forces is a disciplined organization. They are also seeing that they will also put the country together, and also the welfare and the well-being of the nation will be properly taken care of by them. But today, we are the same colleagues of theirs, and we are complaining. Though with due respect and recognition and appreciation to the President and Commander-in-Chief Muhammadu Buhari, why I said so is we were made to understand there's nothing that had to do with the armed forces that is taken before him that he has not approved. But along the line is where we are asking questions, and that is where the challenges are coming in from.
All right. Well, earlier on, you talked about, how the kind of recruitments that we have now, how that most of the people joining the service now are not doing so in patriotism, yes, in the with the interest of the nation at heart. Do you think that this has an implication in the way we deal with issues of insecurity in the country at the moment?
Certainly, yes. I will tell you, I will cite so many examples. If you look at the boys out there in the field, you realize that the commitment, the enthusiasm, the patriotism, the nationalism that is supposed to be embedded in them in fighting the insurgency is not there. It is only after, during our time, that you hear that soldiers are protesting at the field, and then which is by military standard is mutiny. But soldiers protested because the welfare and well-being were not being taken care of, though not recently, but in the recent past that has happened. So tell me, how someone who is serving and is seeing what is done to his colleague that have served and left. Tell me how he will put in his best in ensuring that what is needed is what is given by him in terms of service, in terms of patriotism, in terms of nationalism, in terms of contributing to fatherland, in terms of protection the territorial integrity of Nigeria. That cannot be said to be 100%. Of course, there is a shortfall in it because nobody wants to go and give his life and die and then his families are not properly taken care of. Because the families of the fallen heroes, as I speak to you, there's a challenges. This is a national television. There are things that you cannot even mention here because, like I said, the president is one of us and he's doing his best. We recognize his best. So we will not want to say things that will even look too bad. Otherwise, we had a lot of complaints. We have a lot of cries. We try to put it forward before the authorities, and then we are looking at up to them to do the needful. Like he said, we do not want to go back to the street again. We were on the street in the last 1 month. I have mentioned the various, the way we decentralized the various states that we asked to go on protest, and they all went before that of Abuja. And then the gunpowder is still there. It is not yet Uhuru, because our people, as I speak to you, even as yesterday night, we held meeting with 4 different groups up till 2 a.m. This morning, those that are still insisting, even after the meeting with the minister, they are still insisting that they are still going on the street. Today, as I speak to you, we were having meetings throughout last night till 2 a.m. this morning, trying to calm them down. Said, okay, since there was a meeting with the minister and other senior officials of government that had authority over our issue. Also, since there's a pronouncement from the Minister of Finance through the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance. In fact, there's a written commitment from the Ministry of Finance to us. We were saying, please, calm down. Let us allow this period that there's a promise between now and the end of January, something is going to happen. Okay. If something does happen, fine. If it does not, then you can now come to the street. But for now, please, allow it. We had to take up till 2 a.m. this morning before we were able to convince and calm them down, and then before that is even the reason why we're here. Otherwise, we would still have been there trying to stop them from going to the street so that they won't, the government will be embarrassed. All
right, I would like for you to comment on this. I would also add that, you know, if you look at, you know, these treatments, do you think that this is part of the reasons why we're still dealing with the issue of corruption, even in the force? And how is corruption really a problem? Because he said that the president has given approvals for everything that has to do, you know, with the military and all of that. So where is the problem really?
Thank you so very much for this question. You see, we talked about maltreatment of those of us that are already, you know, in retirement. Now, this administration is known to be fighting corruption. But of course, how would you fight corruption when I find myself serving in a vantage position? Maybe have an appointment where, you know, I can pilfer, I can, you know, money passes through my hands. And looking at those that are already, you know, are retired, and then having the feeling that if I retire, the same treatment will be meted out on me. What do? I start stealing. I will steal in order to survive after retirement. So where is the anti-corruption crusade? So we are telling those in authority that treat those of us that are, you know, that are already retired, treat us well. Because in a way, what you're trying to do is to discourage people from stealing when they find themselves in position of power and authority. Okay, so it goes a long way in checkmating this issue of corruption. Treat us well, and those who will, you know, will join us will feel comfortable to do this job without stealing. So you see, like, let me just cite an example. Part of the issues that brought us out, I mentioned the issue of the minimum wage, which was approved since 2019 by the President and Commander-in-Chief. For God's sake, 24 months of arrears not paid? And then the sad aspect of it is that our civilian counterparts were paid the same money that was approved by the same government, the same president. And we kept asking, where did you get the money to pay these people? And then you keep telling us there's no money. That's one. Number two, there's this issue of disparity in the pension and and salaries of both serving and retired. I give you an example. Between brigadier general and major general is just one rank in between. And you would discover that the salary or pension, the pension of a retired major general is 3 times higher than a brigadier general. And it cuts across from the non-commissioned to the commission. This disparity cuts across. And we are saying that gap needs to be closed. Because we go to the same market. And you can see the rate of inflation today. And this is one of the reasons why I think somebody who is responsible enough, sorry to use that word, should realize that we go to the same market, we shouldn't be holding on to what these people are entitled to.
Is that an act of parliament that will bring that change, or what will change that?
Well, the parliament, they've done their job, but those in authority have refused to comply, like my colleague said. The president may have done what he ought to have done, but most time you find that his directives have not been, carried out.
But they answer to the president. So if the president gives a directive or gives an approval and someone goes against it, head's supposed to roll, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, I was expecting that with this protest, head should have enrolled. Head should roll. Because coming out on a protest by veterans, head should roll, as far as some of us are concerned.
Exactly.
Okay? But then, of course, the system we're running here is unfortunate. Maybe the president may be so busy, and maybe, he's not been told the truth about some of these issues. So we have the issue of the Civil War veterans who fought on the part of, on the side of Nigeria, who are yet to be, placed on pension payroll.
But,
of course, those on the Biafra side have been given approval, and as we speak, they are receiving their pension. So what happened to those of us, those of them that fought on the side of Nigeria? These people were captured in 2015. There was a verification exercise for this set of people, and they were cleared. But as we speak today, they are yet to be paid, to be put on pension payroll. We have the issue of, maybe you take that medically boarded aspect.
Now, there's this issue of medically boarded soldiers. Those that are, like I said, during the Civil War. Let me put it this way. During Obasanjo, after Obasanjo as head of state, he retired a lot of military personnel. That is in 1979, 79, till when he got to hand over to civilian administration, when he was just about to hand over to Shagari, he retired soldiers that he addressed as medically unfit soldiers. Those medically boarded that they addressed as medically unfit, most of them, first, they were not taken into pension until during Umar Musa Yar'Adua's administration, that he was passing and he saw them and he said, what is happening here? That was before the pension board moved to where it is today. And then he instructed that they should be taken into consideration. And they were taken into consideration. They started taking their pay. But most recently, their pay was being slashed. And the question is asked, if they have been taking this pay from that time till now, nobody did anything, why are you slashing their pay? Somebody said it's a policy issue, it's a policy document. So has it been the policy, are you saying that the policy has been ignored all this while? It is now that the policy is being recognized and it is now that it's been implemented? Or what? Does it mean those that have served as the leadership of that authority did not see that it is now that it's being seen? Or what are we saying? It's part of the challenges that we are saying. Fine, it is a policy issue like you said, okay, but what is the compassionate ground? Those people served and left. Even what they are taking right now is not enough to take care of them, even individually, not to talk of other members of their family, and now their take-home pension is being slashed again. And these people were retired on medical ground. And going back to the medical issue that we talked about, the National Health Insurance Scheme, which the defense, under the National Health Insurance Scheme, you have Defense Health Insurance Scheme. If a retired soldier goes to hospital, the highest he gets is Panadol. And there's categorization of the kind of sickness that you will go with, that you will even be considered for treatment. Even after the treatment, there's no drugs to be dispensed. And yet, you are cutting off the money of medically boarded. From the initial stage, he was retired because he's medically unfit. And now, under Defense Health Insurance Scheme, the medical challenges he's having is not covered by the Defense Health Insurance Scheme. And again, you slash his take-home pay. For God's sake, how do you expect him to do?
Right.
And he has served this nation.
All right. Let me throw this. Maybe we'll use this.
What you just said now.
Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to do that.
Yes. You know, like you said, it's a policy actually. It's a written document. And when we met with the incumbent chairman of the pension board, he addressed us and in fact gave us the document, right? And I think there was a system glitch. That was the English that was used, you know, why they had to reverse their, monthly pension. There was a system glitch. And so when the IT consultant came back and then, they made him to rework, whatever it is that they should be taking, they now, sort of reverse to what the policy says. And then in the same vein, there were those that were being short paid. Those people were also upgraded. So you can see the two angles now. While some were, brought back to their normal listing, the others were, brought up to. So it's a policy issue. But then what we are saying is that there's nothing too much to give these people who in the course of their serving this country lost, everything, I can say everything, because they are practically, useless. Sorry to use that word again. They cannot work. They cannot survive. How will they survive? And we are saying, if such policy is there, it should be reviewed. Let these people be considered and let their pay be returned. In fact, pay them more higher than those of us that can still work. All
right. Now, are we giving a thought to some kind of trust fund where would open up,
beautiful,
the opportunities for private, donors, private organizations, individuals who are willing to make contributions towards the welfare
and the well-being of the retirees.
Yes,
thank you very much for that question once again. That is where the Veterans Federation of Nigeria comes to play. Now, there's an act of National Assembly that is there's a bill that is sent to National Assembly for the approval of Veterans Federation. Right now, it is an approval by Defense Headquarters, but we needed either a presidential, executive order or the National Assembly's passage of that Veterans Federation Act. So, under the Veterans Federation Act, there is supposed to be a special fund that is, like you try to put it, all organizations that are working in Nigeria are supposed to have certain percentage of their annual income, certain percentage paid into the Veterans Federation Foundation now for the welfare and the well-being of the military retirees, for serving and protecting the nation, that is giving those businessmen and businesses the opportunity to flourish under the Nigerian system today. That is part of the Veterans Federation's, one out of so many things of Veterans Federation. You have the Veterans Federation's Microfinance Bank, you have the Veterans Federation Transportation, you have the Agri section of Veterans Federation, you have the Health section of the Veterans Federation, you have the Education section of the Veterans Federation. It is a comprehensive bill for an act that has been sent to the National Assembly for assent, and it gives room for democracy. For example, now the present Nigerian Legion, they have been appointed by the government, and we are saying no. This thing should be democratic because we are in a democratic dispensation. Whoever becomes the leader, let the veterans decide who becomes their leaders. Let also be a certain condition for that leadership. Also, let there be, once you fail, there is a way that you can be brought down because you did not fulfill the reason for which you are elected into the office as either the national chairman or if the national president of the Veterans Federation of Nigeria, other offices down to the state chairman or state coordinators of the Veterans Federation, to the local government and even to the ward level. That is on one side. Coming back to the issue of welfare, because that is what we are talking about. What I would have expected under a normal circumstances, today is Armed Forces Remembrance Day. What I would have expected will happen is not just coming to lay wreath on the unknown soldier and also release pigeons to fly, because that is just the ceremony, that's the ritual usually. What I am expecting should have been what is going to happen is, like today that is Armed Forces Veterans Day, you should have assembled all widows that have issues, those retirees who, most especially the bedridden ones, the children of the fallen heroes should have had something to take home today from Eagle Square as the Armed Forces Remembrance Day is taking place. First, there should even be a gift of maybe vehicles. Even if they are not going to be gift, there should be like, what do you call it? A soft loan, so to say, to the retirees. There should be equipment that will be given to the widows for upkeep of their own self, and also there should be scholarship for the children of the fallen heroes, all to be done today at the Eagle Square in the presence of the world, with all the heroes, I mean the widows, the bedridden ones, the children there, being presented publicly and realistically to them. And that should be the practice every year, not just coming to lay wreath, release pigeons, and then till next year, and that is just the end of it.
Well, we hope that hopefully when we come here next year to celebrate the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, we will be singing a different tune. So we're talking about, we've been talking to Biodun Herbert Duruwai. He's the national coordinator, the retired members of Nigeria Armed Forces, and national spokesperson, Coalition of Concerned Veterans, and of course Dr. Awwal Abdullahi Aliu, Secretary General Veteran Federation of Nigeria, and of course the Secretary North Coalition of Concerned Veterans. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. So this is